Get ready for a great episode of Good Signs.
Yeah, so Good Signs is our, 4-letter roundup. Here are some themes and interesting things that are bubbling up that you should be paying attention to podcast.
And when she says 4-letter roundup, it doesn't mean like the fucking roundup. It means like there are 4 letters of good thinking that we've put together.
Yes, I take a month worth of content and I analyze it for themes or I don't like to call it trends, but anyway, enjoy it. Find it interesting. Tell us what you like. Tell us what resonated. Go listen to it.
Enjoy.
Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in Good Co, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome back to Good Thinking Signs.
Yeah, Good Signs. It's been a month already, which is crazy. As I was going through these letters, I was like, oh yeah, we review every 4 letters. I was like, I've written 4 letters since the last one. That's wild. But there you go. Here we are.
Yeah. Summer's gone.
Summer
Last hurrah.
is nearly over. Yeah, no, and I think it's just, this points out to me though why it's important to do the Good Signs. And again, it's not like these are true trends. I think they're just things that are bubbling up all at once, right? And I think it's interesting to be able to kind of look at these letters and see yeah, there are some things that are kind of bubbling up together and how do they all work? And even some of them have popped up in one letter, but it's this is a big thing to unpack. How can we kind of discuss it a little bit more because we haven't had a chance to do that.
For sure. And I think they always become big conversations. I think we start seeing LinkedIn, we'll talk about it on LinkedIn, various conversations that were from meetings and things. I think we do always see these kind of bigger conversation signs, whatever we want to call them. It's definitely every time we talk about it, every time we dig into it, maybe it's you can't not see the gray elephant once you say, look at the gray elephant or find the gray elephant. But it's definitely something that I see after all of these conversations. All right. Where do you want to start? Open Provenance?
Open Provenance. I don't know. I may rename these before they make the live...
Their debut.
The live letter, but, it's what comes to me in the moment. But what I was thinking about, so this is a theme around there's a lot happening right now with collectibles and shares in things like micro shares of now that Robinhood is coming out with this thing where you can have a micro share of OpenAI. That's not a public company. That's not on the stock market, right? That's a private thing that you can go and buy a sliver of it. There's so much happening, I think the watch space has kind of gone down, but there's so much going on with kids trading cards. And then there was the Christie's jewel thing. And I think, always people have been looking for the story behind this. So that's the provenance thing. They really know, everybody's always wanted that, right? That's the point of a collectible. That's why collectibles exist. You want the story, the thing so it's not just about the rarity, but you want the story or the special thing about it. I think what I'm talking about now is that we're entering an age with AI and just a mindset where it used to be there was this group of people over here who had access to these things. And then this group of people just got to do the regular day things, right? Trading on the public stock market. And that was essentially it. Get your 401k and that was your investment portfolio. And now there's this realization because we can track things, because we can find out the real-time value of things before, now we can have a piece of them and we want a piece of them. And I would even extend that into watching The Gap come back with archive drops and watching J. Crew realize that the valuable portion of what it has right now is its 90s catalogs. And so they're bringing back pieces that they can see are being sold for a high amount in the vintage market. And they're saying, this bag is being sold at the vintage market and that's doing really well. Let's just bring back a version of that bag, with, a new colorway or something that so they're seeing that you can start to look in all of these places and there are opportunities for brands that aren't in kind of these luxury hard goods spaces in order to deal with this. And I think the card thing is that to me, so I was learning that these kids, they go on this app called Whatnot And they literally like are opening the boxes of cards that they get. And if they get a special card in it, then everybody on there, like there's hundreds of kids, and not just kids, hundreds of people watching them open these boxes. And it's like, this box belongs to them, but the influencer is unboxing it for everybody. And then everybody celebrates together when they get this like special card, if they get one. And then it's mailed to them, or they're trading it in real time already. It's like, I know you have that card now. And then they're already trading the card before they got it, which is exactly how the art market works, right? Like, so these kids are essentially like, have created like what was previously like a old school model of the art market, where like a lot of art never sees like your wall, your museum. It lives in like a shipping container off of like, in Zurich, like that's half of the shipping containers just have crazy millions of dollars of art. That's what's happening with trading cards. And I just think it's really interesting that people like, it's performative now. Like there's just this whole world of like auctioning and rare things. And it's all really changing. Like Fanatics is another one. Like they've made a whole convention around the trading of this. And then there's experiences that go around it. And like, it's just so different to how it used to be, where you'd go and you'd sit with your little paddle and you're like, I'm rich and I'll like trade on these things. Like this world is really changing, and like places like Christie's are seeing that they have to update in order to, because it's like, oh, well, this kid came up in the card world, right? So he knows how it all works. And now he's finally got enough money and he's going to buy some jewelry, or she's going to buy some jewelry. And it's just all really different. And I think it's really going to take off even more with AI, because now with AI, you can live know how much everything costs, right? Like it's all available to you. There's no like wait and see for somebody else, like professional, to tell you if it's worth something. That's all gone.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think so many things about it are fascinating. And I think probably the most part for me is really the mix, like the overlap of Venn diagrams. I think just in thinking about the various brands that you referenced, right? So Christie's to Gap to Whatnot Live, the cards to OpenAI, like it's just such a variety of, highs and lows and levels of an interest and types of brands. And I think it's that which is fascinating to me, that it's really like, okay, this is something that actually there's probably everyone is an audience for a different portion of this. And then I think it's really about taking this, the kind of rarity piece, the collectible, having a piece of something that's maybe a little bit unique, a little bit special, but then it's also, okay, well then the experience around that, the unboxing or the sharing, or kind of really understanding that. And then I think it's looking at, every brand can look at and say, okay, well, what do we have? What's our opportunity to live in this space, right? And I think Gap is, I think we've talked about that forever, how much the archives that they have, there were such iconic, and I think probably everybody has that about various brands, but certainly many people around the Gap, of like what was iconic to them and what are those elements. They have all of those archives, I'm sure. Just go back and do that. And same thing with J. Crew. That's, I feel like, been a thing for a minute. And I think every brand has the opportunity to look at what they have. Again, not just like, don't just put something out there that people don't want, but what can they offer from a rarity standpoint? What can they offer from really some type of heritage or some type of element of their brand? And then what is kind of the experience?
Right. And I would say that that's that like very latter piece. It is heritage. And I think everyone's like, oh, like heritage has been around forever. But I think that there's now an expectation of experience that like wraps the heritage. Like you have to go and like buy it in a particular place, or, like experience, like, get us like, it's like, oh, we're having 5 vintage pieces. Like, which one did you get? Like, not to gamify everything, but I think it's so much around, it's not just the end purchase, like it's the build up to the purchase, and the experience of the purchase is like part of what they want.
Totally. I think that's really well said. And that reminds me, when you're talking about heritage, of actually, I think I commented on a post on LinkedIn this morning around that. But and I think that's what we're seeing here. It's just, not everything is one dimensional anymore. It's not just like, okay, well, you can just pull the heritage lever and there you go. It's like, okay, well, what is, again, my head sees it as a Venn diagram. What is the heritage portion that you have? What's the experience portion that you have? Who's your audience? Like really thinking about it in all of these various levels, because my comment on this LinkedIn post was like, heritage is great, but heritage doesn't matter if it's not made relevant. There's a ton of brands that have a lot of heritage, And we've worked with a lot of brands, and it's about making them relevant.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
so
it's
I
meaningless.
think, I think it's an we'll rename it because I think that's more like the re-relevance of heritage, whatever we want to call it. But, it's, to me, it's that is like, how is heritage being kind of reframed? And I think it has to come with a lot more like pieces of the puzzle now. It doesn't just come with like, oh, we're this legacy brand and therefore like love us, like us, buy us. Like that's not enough. And it's also not about like, oh, we have a really nice, stodgy store experience either. Like it's literally like the purchasing portion of it is being like amped up.
Totally. And I think it doesn't just have to be heritage. It's like, what's the collectible or what's that you can offer as a brand? And I think most brands could find something.
Yes, exactly. And then I would say the, pendulum swing, which we talked at length
Give it to
about.
us.
No, I mean, like, I don't think we should spend too long on it because we've talked about it so much, but it's the sort of the privacy, and we'll talk about privacy in another one a little bit more, but I think it's, like there's so many like founders only WhatsApp groups now. And then there's the CMO dinners that it's like the closing of the doors is also happening. But I think it's like they're very different things. But I think there's this mentality of like, how do we shut down some of public access? And then there's also a big appetite for more access for people. And those two things are happening like in different circles and different people.
For sure. Yes, and.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
No French accent, IP play.
Yes. Yeah. So this is about something that I wrote about recently, and in the last couple of letters is like this. I mean, I think we've talked about fandoms before and fan fiction, right? Like, and fan fiction, and is in some ways bigger than a lot of like regular movies, right? Like, and books, right? It's like these things are happening, but now people are starting to do it with brands, right? Like, there's the
You want to give a little overview on that? Yeah. You want to give a little overview on that, like back up a little bit and kind of dig in more to fan.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in the world of the Reddits, and there's all sorts of fan forums and things like that, like people are creating like full on new books with characters that didn't exist before. Like, it's like, oh, this was a sub character. Some fan has written an entire novel about this sub character. There's a movie, like they've reworked the ending, like, and that will happen more and more. And I've told you that through the letters about like how now with AI, like the way that we are going to experience movies in the next 10 years is not going to be like, here's the movie, enjoy it. It's going to be like, here's the pieces of this movie and you can rework it. Like if you want a more diverse cast, if you don't like the storyline, like for your daughter and you need it to be for your son, or you think that it should be genderless, or we don't even need to go into like, it's not just like, I don't even like the word woke because it comes with so much like
it does
baggage at the moment today. But like it doesn't need to be progressive concepts. It can be also like, oh, I would like this set in Africa, whatever. That's how we're going to make movies. Like that's how we're going to experience shows and things like that. Like it'll all be kind of custom made. But what I think is interesting is like that's been happening for a while in the movie and the book space. But like people playing and mashing up brands is I feel like a slightly newer thing. And the example I'm using is like of the like KFC Uniqlo Luckin thing that happened in China where they were like making, and that somebody made that and then it went viral and people were literally like buying the different products so that they could show the sentence as like, will you marry me? So like phonetically speaking, these like brands line up in a particular order and then it spells in Mandarin, like phonetically in Mandarin, it spells
so good.
Can you marry me? And people are recreating that. And I think, obviously in the worlds of gaming, like it's like, oh, I have this character and then it has like this shirt of this character and like these kinds of shoes from this person. Like they're building all of these like kids have been doing that for a while, but it's like you've just not realized that it's like the brand mashing up. And now I think like, we talked about Starbucks secret menu, which is based on fans, and there's Taco Bell's fan style menu, which I think is even more interesting because of the way that they're have like layered it into the campaign. So they have like this campaign where you can make your own orders on the app, but then you can also sell your orders to your friends. So you can literally like trade in your order. Like you could be like, this is my secret taco, like, Kirsten's like, this is my special burrito. Or I can
Hudson would
imagine
be
Hudson.
so into that.
Right. Like, it's like, this is my super sour, like, because it would be sour. So like, let's like start there. Super sour, like burrito, like double dip fried with cheese, like, and it comes with like two sauces that come together. And then they make a little, like, from what I understand on the app, it like makes a little picture of like what it could look like. And then you can like literally like send it to your friends and they can order it. And if they get a lot of orders, then you could end up winning national like promotion on billboards of your particular order. And then if you win the top level, it goes on the national menu, like, and people can order it at the stores. And I think that kind of thinking of like allowing people to play with your IP. Like, I think that's actually quite a tame version because it's like ingredients and things. But like, I actually think that where it's going more is that people want to be able to say like, yes, I would like this is a terrible version of this, but I would like a Nike shoe with like the Adidas, like with the Miu Miu laces. And it's like, they want to be able to make that. And it's not just customization. It's literally like the two brands coming together. And it's not you creating the collab, it's them making it.
Yes, I think this is amazing and going to be, and I think we're just going to see more and more of this. And I think it's so interesting to me, and I have so many thoughts on it. There are two LinkedIn posts that I'm thinking of that I won't be able to share articulately enough, but we'll include it in the show notes for sure, where it's basically like a brand did something and then another brand played off of it. And then it's like, one of it I think was around graffiti, and then another brand kind of hired an artist and kind of made it more elevated and played into it versus saying like, oh, this is no good. And I think doing that in a way where it's taking something and you're creating IP, you're creating content, you're creating something is kind of like such an evolution. We talked a lot about, maybe a couple year ago about collaborations and like, dear God, like one more collaboration. And they just started to feel so commercial. Like, let's get said brand to partner with said brand. And like, somehow we think it will be mutually beneficial for both. And it just felt so corporate. And this feels like such an experience in two brands coming together in a way that feels really meaningful and unexpected and feels like it's very consumer led, which just feels completely different to me. And I think is exciting and one of the most interesting things kind of happening in marketing.
I think it's really scary for brands because you're basically like, what do you have if you don't have your IP, right? So it's like, they've spent so long protecting it and like creating these rules around it. And like, you can only, like, God forbid, like, even just like the space around the logo is just the beginning of the story. But it's like, like this character can only show up like next to this thing. And like, it's all like, everybody's so precious about it. And I think the truth is that that's just not how consumers are. And again, with AI, like, people are able to create the vision that they want. Like, you don't have a choice. You can either join the party or you can like have the party start without you. Like, it's going to happen no matter what.
That's the mic drop right there. That's what this needs to be named.
Yeah.
I think that is absolutely true. It's happening. So, and I think it ties back for me, like, I'll say it again. It's all about brand strategy because a brand is a living and breathing thing. And to your point, it's no longer like, don't box it into personas. Like, it isn't this precious thing. And you have to really be able to have a strategy and understand your brand, not just like, oh, it's these demographics. This is relevant. This isn't, but really be able to understand your brand to see where you want to push and pull. To create something like this or create the opportunity for something like that. Right. Pendulum swing. I know there's one.
The pendulum swing is, I think, again, like, this is like, it's going to continue to happen. Like, the curated lens, I think, is still going to be more valuable, right? Like, if everybody can like make a mess, right? And good mess, bad mess, whatever you want to call it, it's still going to be like chaos. Then over here, there's an appetite for like, I just want to see it done right and have it done nicely. And the two examples that I have in here are like Jandal, which is it's like a restaurant in Ibiza. And they have like the Jacquemus umbrellas, and like this perfect chef is there this summer. And then they also have like this human race wellness experience with cold plunge happening. And it's like everything is done. Like it's very contrived, but it's done just right. You know, like it feels like
I'm
you're
in.
like, I just want to, right. Like I want to drop into that and like experience that. And then it will change. And so it will, I think that's important, is that it will evolve and then it will be something different. And I would say the Grand Cayman Palm Heights hotel that everybody loves, they do a lot of collaborations, but they're always kind of done the same. But like, you know, they always have the yellow and it's always like, you know, the photo shoot is always at the hotel, but it feels really nice, right? Like you're like, I'd like that. So I don't think that that is going to go away. I think it's just going to have to be like, that will still be desirable. I think like a curated version of things will still be really beautiful, but it will have to be very tight and really well done and also timely. Like it's not going to stay the same. You're not going to have like, I guarantee you, John Dell, you're going to go there in 3 years. There's not going to be the same Jacquemus situation there anymore. You know, like it knows that it will die on the vine if it doesn't stay updated. So, and that's where I think it's different. Like, you know, like Soho House is like they build something and it stays like that forever. And like literally like 7 years later, I could take you back to the farmhouse. And I know it's going to be essentially the same, might be slightly like add a few more things, but the vibe is still the same. I think that that's not quite what I'm talking about here, where it's like this much more curated, collaborative like lens.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think but they both speak to living, breathing brand.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm clearly I need to get back to Ibiza. So
yeah, it's evolving.
All right. Live.
I'm calling this live but off. So I've talked a lot about how with all of these always on listening devices, like the Bee Watch that Amazon just acquired, the glasses, everything, like you're essentially going to be listened to and like actively pursuing this, right? Like if you can have all of like, you know, it's like the conversation with your friends and, you know, that horrible thing where you like have a conversation with your friend and then you're like, what was the like, you know, brand of shoe that she told me that I should buy? Like you're literally going to be able to ask your AI like, hey, what did Marissa say that shoe brand was? And then find it.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be kind of you're going to be opting in for this. Like I think the convenience of it, to be quite honest, like human beings love convenience. And I think I just can't imagine that it won't happen en masse as like it becomes so easy. But I think consequently, like that ease is going to create an even like quicker rise of I want to go to some places where like I know for a fact there's nothing listening to me, nothing watching me. And I think those things will inevitably be mostly live experiences, right? Like there'll be things that you go to and it will be like all devices at the door. You'll be scanned for microphones. I mean, even Yeling was like writing about these tiny like cameras that are really, really big in China at the moment. Like all of those things, like they'll be scanning your body to make sure you don't have them. Not like in a gross way, like in a like, yes, I'm here, scan me. I'm proving that I have nothing on me. Like, let's go and have a good time. And yeah, I think it's just like the rise of these like live, off script, off mic, off camera experiences are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I think this is something that clearly is happening. It's not a theory. We know it's happening across the board. These are great examples, and I'm sure there will only be more. And I think the difference is really about, we've talked a little bit about this, but it's really about these like offline experiences. Exactly as you said, like you'll be excited about them. We are actually opting in for the first time versus rolling our eyes when we go into a Soho House and being like, okay, let's take pictures of the coaster that says you can't take pictures. Get it? That instead of kind of doing that will actually, because it also has a purpose and it has kind of meaning, right? It doesn't feel like it's just, you know, an added rule, if you will. It's like there's really a meaning behind it, and I think we'll really embrace it. So
you'll be going there because it offers that, not because you're like, oh, how can I work around this silly rule that I think is annoying?
Yes, exactly.
And then the pendulum swing, I think, is just like us as human beings being extremely nosy and loving it. And like, look at how well Wimbledon did. Like Wimbledon posted like 375 or something posts in 1 week. And a good percentage of those posts were, it was contrived. So it was not contrived. It was permission granted, like eavesdropping. They're like giving the mic to friends and saying, hey, can we just record you guys while you're like chitter chattering at Wimbledon, and we'll record you from far away. But like, just pretend we're not there and like talk about what you guys would always talk about. And the conversations are very like, you know, sometimes it's like two women, like
Yes,
two
I do
old
know.
ladies, and they're chitter chattering and they're like, she looks so cute in that dress. And then like, sometimes they're talking about the tennis, sometimes they're not, you know? And I think that there's still like always gonna be like this like desire to just like kind of listen in and see something that you didn't have a, you know, like you want to know what they're talking about. Like, of course, like that's why my husband will take me to a restaurant and be like, are you even at the dinner table with me? You should sit with them because you are much more interested in their conversation than in ours. And it's true.
Right.
That's half the reason I go out to eat. I want to
Fair
know
enough.
what they're gossiping about.
Yes.
And I don't think
Yeah.
that's going away.
Right. I
and
mean,
I don't
clearly
think
we have, you know,
similarly, like I could have had the pendulum swing here, be like, we're all going to have listening devices on us and be excited about it. That will too be true.
Don't love that idea, but I'm sure it's going to happen. But I think Wimbledon, like, what a great example. And they killed it because I think there's like, it's Wimbledon, so it's a bit of elevated listening, right? Like, they're still probably talking about the same crap they're talking about anywhere, but it felt a little bit more kind of elevated in experience simply because it's at Wimbledon and people aren't dressed up and look nice. But like, props to their social team for like, you know, figuring it out and going in there. And I think to me, you know, the optimistic part, I tend to look on like the humanity side of it versus the gossiping side of it. Like we just want to have connection and we just want to kind of feel connected to people, whether it's at a restaurant hearing what they're saying or, you know, kind of a Wimbledon overhearing a conversation. I think there's just this innate desire for connection. And I think that's part of what this brings out. And I think Wimbledon's such a good example of taking it and doing it in a way that felt really connected and real. And, you know, everybody's still talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay. Creator.
I got to rename this one because I ran out of time.
Yeah.
I was like, creator economy. And then I was like, God, that's like the worst title ever. But
you would never title anything that.
I make these themes like right before we chat. I really should have time to like, you know, the title is always the last thing that comes to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, number 4, we can just call it number 4. So number 4 to me is and I really like haven't quite figured out how to, again, summarize this into a title, summarize it into a sentence. But what is happening is that I would say mostly on Substack, but we could include Beehive into this or like, you know, alternative media. I'd say like new media is also becoming the place where all of these kind of like B2B tools, job boards, surveying, SaaS bundling and getting promotions and like, you know, like is all happening in these places. And like the response is extremely high, you know, like, and I think before it would be like, oh, you know, I'm going to run an ad on LinkedIn. But now you don't need to do that because this like one creator has like all the people who are going to want, like all the people you want to apply for your job, read this person. So you don't need to go to general LinkedIn and be like, I have a profile of a 45-year-old person who has this much years experience, who's like really interested in creative, but also like does this, you know, like it's like, you don't need to tell the machine that doesn't even actually then go out and find that person that that's what you want. You go find this creator because you know that the creator does have that audience, right? They have that little vertical and they are doing like they can do the ad, they can do the job board, they can do all the things and it's much more efficient and interesting. Like I thought it was interesting. Emily did this GLP-1 survey, right? Which we're all like, ooh, that's interesting. Like, I want to know who's taking GLP-1s and what that world is looking like. But it was also an ad for a brand that offers GLP-1s, right? Like, or is in that space anyway. So like, it's like she's giving her group what they want and then exposing this person like in a relevant way to that group, right? Like it's just it's not an advertorial because it's again not so general. Like it's not like going to Vogue and being like, Vogue has this enormous readership, but like half of them don't care about you. Like it's like this audience really cares about this particular topic because they're reading about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like Lenny, who has, an enormous following, but they're all mostly like tech product developers and product managers. And then he runs this thing where he's like, okay, here's all the best AI tools. You can get access to 10K worth of like free 1-year trials to all of these AI tools if you sign up for my paid newsletter for $200 a year. And everybody literally crashed the internet. And it's like, can you imagine how hard it would have been for each of those companies individually to run ads that would have sold that many seats to their 1-year subscription? Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
They would never have been able to do that on their own.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is all great. I think, it's where I think it shows that, all of these brands, all of these companies know where things are going, because we all know, Substack's a big one. But there's a few others as well, that this is where things are going. And then I think it makes so much sense because it's so targeted. To your point, it's not like, oh, Vogue, like, great, it's a lot of readership, but it almost goes back to like the influencer model. Well, who the fuck cares if you're getting exposure, if there's not like an investment and people don't actually care about the product or feel connected to it or have any interest in it. Eyeballs don't matter if there's really not, it's not the right eyeballs.
It's very much the same as like the micro influencer thing that was happening on Instagram. I think what's different about it to me is who's playing in the space, right? So when you're doing like, for running your makeup brand, running a micro influencer thing on Instagram or TikTok, great. But where does a B2B company do that? And like, the truth is, like, they used to do it by like basically running ads on LinkedIn or like, going to conferences. And now they actually have a channel for, so it's obvious, there are still consumer facing brands, but there's also, but now it's also like service brands, B2B brands. Like, I don't know if that anything is B2B anymore. So like, I hate to use that term, but like tech brands and brands that you would consider to be like not ever needing a micro influencer or like not really having access to a micro influencer now have like this whole world of Substack and Beehive where they can and have like an active and like audience with an appetite for what they are selling. And they've never really had that before. And I think it's just a different, and I think LinkedIn, quite honestly, like may have missed the boat slightly with like how they could have done this, because they had that happening on LinkedIn, like people posting, but they've never leaned into like, oh, this person actually has the audience for Ramp. So you could have paired up like the business influencer with Ramp and like done that on LinkedIn, but that never happened. And I think it's actively happening on Substack.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think the simple reason, in my opinion, it didn't happen is because they're looking at the old model, right? Like, this is how you advertise. This is how just general you put it here. Oh, look, there's a new way to do it. It's this. It's not like thinking about, okay, let's re-engineer it. And to me, this advertising almost comes out of the comment section that we were talking about, we've talked about many times, is like, there's clearly this community. They clearly have similar interests. They're clearly talked about, like, there are these things really bubbling up, and they're very, very targeted. So then to be an advertiser, to be a B2B, to be anybody, any brand, any company, and to be able to see that and then be able to move in on it, I think is genius. But it's about the innovation behind the approach versus kind of defaulting to the traditional advertising or any kind of traditional model, in my opinion.
Yes. And I will say, I just want to add to this because I feel like people will be listening to it and be like, okay, so I'm just going to run some ads on Substack. I actually think most ads on Substack are really terrible. Like, I do not think that there is any point in like sponsoring a letter where you just have like a tiny little segment where it just says like, this letter is sponsored by da 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 da, this is what they do. Like, this is not good advertising. People just scroll right past them. Like, I'm all for, like, one thing that I think is nice is when they do that and then they make somebody's paid letter free. But I don't think you get an enormous amount of brand lift or credit for doing that. Like, I think it's nice to do, but it's not like wow advertising. I do think like Emily's like GLP-1 survey, like surveys do really well on Substack, and they're really like, there's a lot of appetite for like how things work and like, research and data. And so I thought that was like an entertaining, like, and her GLP-1 surveys is not just like numbers. It's like, who's taking this and how does it work in their lives? And like, like all the kind of behind the scenes shit that you want to know that you could never see in a regular survey. Like it's much more like entertainment meets survey is a really clever way of doing advertising, because it's like, oh, okay, like this is the content that she makes, just like you would do with a micro influencer, right? It's like, don't make them make content they wouldn't make otherwise. Like have them make the content that they make, and then, or a version of the content they make. That's not the kind of content she always makes, but it's some kind of content that she makes. And then you slot your brand, like the lens of your brand into it and your name in there, right? Like I think similarly, like with Lenny, like he's bundling up things that like he knows his audience really want, like, and they want access to these things. And quite honestly, like I'm already hearing so much around like AI subscription fatigue that like you're playing into something that people are already suffering from and then giving it. Like it's very well done advertising. But like to just do like a regular, like this letter is sponsored by da 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 da, is like, to me, like,
yes. Yeah. We recently talked about that. Yeah. With regards to a client, which I think is totally true. But I think it's okay. I think it's really about, giving them something that they want across the board, right? So make sure that there is an appetite, and hopefully the examples that you have from the Substackers are for sure doing that. So know your audience and make sure it's something that they want from the brand or B2B level, and also from the Substack. And then I think it's really about making sure that it feels integrated. Because again, like we're all reading and looking at so much stuff. Like I think that can be from a design standpoint, but also from really a strategy, kind of the thoughtfulness from it. And I think Emily's example is great. Like make it feel really integrated, and then really lean into, don't use the traditional model of just a defaulting to, but really leaning into the vision behind the Substack, the human, the writer, the whatever it is, and really allow them to kind of co-create and really create it. And it's going to be more successful for sure, versus, to your point, just a kind of standard advertisement model in a Substack, which is nobody wants.
Yes. Yeah. I also think is like who people are getting their business information from. Like it's just all changing. Like it's just really changing very rapidly.
For sure. Lightning speed is changing. And the swing, pendulum swing.
And the swing is, I think, similar to other swings, I think face-to-face is going to get better. I've heard that from multiple CMOs and CEOs that I talk to and consult with, like where they're saying, hey, listen, like there's so much out there. Like quite honestly, like even with creators, like it's like, oh, this guy's amazing on TikTok. He talks a big game about knowing about marketing, da 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 da. But you can really get in a room and like they can't follow through on the thought. It's like they can make it for TikTok, but they can't make it for your brand. Like they can't figure out actually how to take that. They can report on something that's happening, but they can't concept what's happening at a high level.
Very different skills.
Those are very different skills. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is that when you get face to face and you can have like this chitter chatter conversation and I can like really probe, I can really understand if you're the real deal or not. So I think that, and that's going to go because of so much AI. Like now there's like literally like, I was watching this influencer. I will link to it in the Substack because I thought it was like fascinating that she was doing this. It was an influencer who was promoting to her group, like, hey, guess what? This video that I'm making right now was made with AI. I literally told it what I wanted to talk about, and then it made it look like the rest of my content. But she is a travel influencer. So like, it's like, oh, you're making content about Italy, but you're not actually, it's not Italy, right? Like it's just what you wrote about Italy. And like, as that, and it looked exactly like you would never have known, like never in a million years would you have known that it was AI had she not said it. The comment section was vicious. Most people being like, WTF is this? Like that's not why I follow you. Like, what are you doing? I'm so sad to see you go down this route. But I think as that becomes more true, right? And you have influencers or creators like using AI video and like, it's like, do you even know if this person is real or not? I think it's going to matter more and more that you like get in the room with somebody and they can like see who you are. And like, that's how things will happen.
Totally. I mean, it's the original bullshit detector. So yes, we're going to need it more than ever. All right, let's move on. Number five. built by me.
Yeah, maybe this title is close enough, but like we'll talk about it and we can rename it afterwards. This fifth one is really about, I'm making the comparison, so bear with me because these are two very
Okay,
different
I'm here
thoughts,
for
but
it.
I'm like, this is how I see these two things are linked, and like, tell me if you agree. I am seeing a lot of, obviously with AI, like, and you don't need to code anymore, and you like, if you want to make a movie, you can literally just type in into this, like the thing that I was sharing last week, like it was like, here, you type it in, and then like Feeble or something, Fable, you type into Fable, like, I want a movie, like, take this scene from this movie, this scene from this movie, this scene from this movie, but with this character and da 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 da, and you can literally have that in like an afternoon, right? Like, and that's happening with apps. Like my friends are building apps for themselves, left, right, and center. Like this is my, shopping app for my kid with celiac, and like this is this thing that it does. Like everybody is doing this right now. They're basically cobbling together what they want. But I'm also seeing a lot of cobbling together of like, I want this kind of healthcare. Like, I don't want this like, off the shelf healthcare option. I want this kind of PT. I want to have, like, I'm going to track my rate of cancer myself through my like, menstrual pads. I'm going to like, everybody's kind of like, it's the DIY diagnosis, but there's more and more tools to allow people to do it. And they're kind of creating the sort of the future that they want. And I think this mindset of like, I don't necessarily need a brand. I need the tools that I want from all of these brands in order to make the life that I want, right? Or the thing that I want. And I think that that is happening more and more where people are really like, I think before when you say I cobbled it together, it sounded like you made a worse version. And I think what's happening now is that you're cobbling it together to make the best version for you. So it's like, oh, this works better for me than anything else. And I want to be clear that I'm not talking about brands like hyper personalizing information, like emails. Like this is not the same thing. Like this is not hyper personalization. This is, I am building systems and tools and lifestyles for me.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think the app portion and people building that is like specific to a group. Like I think it's happening for sure, but I think those that are more tech minded
Yeah,
are
that's
obviously the
only going to
ones
change
doing
in the
it.
next year. Like
For
you're going to
sure.
be able
For
to
sure.
see more people doing that regularly, like in business and not. Like I guarantee in the next year, like you're going to see somebody like spin up an entire app for your business that just makes it like, oh, this will work better for us than anything off the shelf that we could have bought.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I think it's, you're able to do that now where there's so much out there. We have so many tools, and I think people are used to, Burger King, have it my way. And so I think they're actually doing that. And I think within health, it's growing in the area of offerings. And so I think people are really able to go, oh, I want this part of it, but I don't want that. I want this part of it. I don't want that. And maybe, there's such opportunity to really get in a much bigger way so people can really go in and truly kind of customize that. But I think we're just, there's more available at our fingertips. And of course, we're curating it and deciding what works for us and what doesn't.
Exactly. And I think like with the health thing, like what I think is interesting is like much like I would predict that this goes exactly the same way as the cord cutting goes. So everybody went through their cord cutting phase, right? And they were like, I don't really need like, I don't know, whoever it was that offered like the big cable package, right? I don't need Time Warner. I'm gonna just need Netflix, and because they have that show that I like, and then I have Hulu, the show that I like, right? And you kind of created it. Now you got literally like you're like, I have a subscription to Disney, I have a subscription to Hulu, I have a subscription to Netflix, I have this with my sport, I have this with and you're like, wait a second. Cable sounded pretty good before. Like that was like $200 and I didn't know where it was at. Like, like, and I think that there will probably be a point where like, I do think that there will be like is like, imagine if you're like, your insurance company will let you cobble these things together for you. So then they're not like, you're not doing it outside of your insurance. You would be like, okay, insurance company, I want to be able to do that. I think someone will come along and figure that out. Like, and that will be a model.
I mean, I mean, that's an opportunity, because I think what's happening specifically on kind of medical is obviously people are, really hating on medical and insurance companies. I mean, they're a mess. And that's again, going back to the opposite of innovation, like it's such an archaic industry. And don't get me started, but it's like so much of like, it's not even prevention. It's not even really doing anything. It's just all reactive. And so I think nobody's going, oh, I love my insurance company. They're doing a great job. So I think when you have an entire industry that's like that, and then there's more innovative brands, opportunities, companies that come in and can be a solve for that. One Medical, all of that was definitely that. And maybe that was the kind of first iteration of it. Maybe we'll start to see something else, and it'll be bigger really with regards to insurance as well. But I think there's such an opportunity for it, because on both ends, people want wellness, they want health, they want to kind of stay ahead of it. We want all of these things that make us feel great, look great, kind of do all of the things. And we're chasing that. We're going after that and finding that. And then you have kind of this institution of health and insurance and things like that are doing a terrible job.
I think it's just like there will be a place for aggregators. Like I think an aggregator, but it will be like, I need an aggregator who will let me do it the way I want to build it. Like I want to, like, it's like I have a knee injury. I, believe in this kind of like supplement regime, like holistic healthcare. You want to be able to kind of do it your own way, like much like making the Starbucks order or the Taco Bell. Like I think it's the same mentality. And I think with AI, like what I'm seeing happening, and I think this is the Lenny bundle is like an example of this, is that yes, everybody wants to be able to build, and I know it's not everybody, like it's a segment of people that I hang out with, and also like, but it's a growing segment.
For sure it is. Yes.
Is like, I want to be able to do and make and do all these things, but then you have like $400 worth of AI subscriptions, and you're like, wait a second, like this is terrible. And there will be somebody who aggregates like figuring that out for you, right? Like it'll either be OpenAI just like buys them all up and you can just use it all in your, ChatGPT subscription, which may be like kind of one method. Or I think it will be like, hey, like when I buy into this, I get to try all of these different things. And then after a minute, I'm like, oh, I'm actually really only using these 5. And like that becomes your bundle or whatever. But I think it'll be interesting to watch people figure out, like, as this sort of like I piece it together myself mentality grows, which I think it will grow faster than not, is like, how do you create new ways for people to be able to do that? Because they are right now cobbling it together and then realizing that they can't, and then like severing essentially.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And the same with healthcare. So that's what I think will happen.
Agreed. All right, let's wrap it up. Pendulum swing.
Pendulum swing is, I think, that experts are still going to matter. Like expertise is still going to matter more and more. And like there's obviously this enormous growing discourse on Substack, if you live in that world, where they're like taste is the only thing that matters in the future of AI. And I do subscribe to like taste and expertise will matter. I think that is true, but I'm not going to like get into the weight in the waters of everybody having an existential crisis about it. But I think that the example I liked is that if you look at like hospitality brands now, they're like, oh, like Venus Williams like is offering tennis lessons this summer. Like if you want to have tennis lessons with the best in the world, you come to the Four Seasons, like only at, this Italian one. And like she's teaching tennis there. Like there's only a certain number of slots and things like that. And I think like you're not cobbling to, like we can cobble together tennis lessons, but we want to have it like there's still an appetite for having it with the best of the best, and like like that's not going away.
Right. That feels like an opportunity to me. It makes me think of like, hey, masterclass, like maybe let's get on it and really reinvent in a more relevant way, because there's an opportunity in the future.
Yeah, I mean we could have an entire podcast on my feelings on masterclass.
Yeah, well, yes, but we don't have time, so that's the thing.
All right, not today, but maybe
Not
one
today.
day we should do a podcast on these brands and like what we think about them, and like unpack
I'm here
what
for
they
that.
could do.
Yes.
And so if you want to hear that
so much
podcast,
opportunity, so much opportunity.
If you want to hear that podcast and hear us like talk about what some brands could do and should be doing that aren't quite doing it right, please drop them in the comments, and then we could make a podcast.
Yes, and I'd love to know what brands you'd love to hear about, because we certainly have a list. We certainly have a list, but I would love to know from you guys, what are the brands that you think are the opportunities? Where do you think? What would you want to hear about?
Or even if you are a brand and you want us to have us analyze it
Yes.
for freezies on the podcast, you could also drop that in the comments. We
Yes.
can't promise we will
Here for
only
it.
say nice things, but you will walk away with things that you can use.
Yes, it will be very clear what you need to do. All right.
This is fun.
Until
I
next
will
time,
change
stay
all the
curious.
titles. Yeah.
Yes, change all the titles. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend. Give us some algorithm love.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.